Hello everyone and welcome back to our webinar series Coping Well During COVID. Thank you for joining us today and really hope that you find some really useful techniques and strategies today. The session today is our session number 6 and it's mindfulness based. My name is Emily Gardner and I'm a cognitive behavioural therapist working for the NHS in London. And today we're going to be looking specifically at some strategies and techniques to help you learn how to start, well, I guess a bit of an introduction to mindfulness. But before we get started, it will be helpful for you to know how the Q&A function works, as we're going to be using this function throughout today's webinar. So if you go to the right-hand side of your page and click on the box with the question mark for the Q&A, and the Q&A box should open, and then it will give you the option to enter your name. But what we'd like you to do is to click on the small box by the blue arrow to remain anonymous. And the reason for this is that we would like to keep your information as confidential as possible. And then enter your question and click on the arrow to send. So if I ask a question during the webinar, then please respond here. If I ask you to respond to a poll, the options will be copy and pasted into the Q&A chat. So if you scroll up, you'll find the option. So just select A, B, C or D, and you press the thumbs up button to like it. And then if you have a question, then please ask it here. And everything you write will not necessarily be published immediately, as it needs to be approved by a moderator, and it may take a few minutes to appear. If you do wish to keep your question private for the moderators only, then please put private at the beginning of your question or comment, and that can remain between you and one of our moderators. We may not be able to get through all questions, but your responses will help us to tailor webinars in the future. And also, if you do have a particular question that's relevant to the webinar, then if you hold on to that, because we'll have some time at the end of the webinar for a bit of a Q&A where I'll go through some of the questions and answer as many as I can. So let's try it out now. So what we'd like to do is just get you to tell us a bit about yourself. So some of you may be here for yourself. Some of you may be here to learn more about how to support a family member or a friend who is struggling, or maybe you're here as a professional or in another capacity. So please tell us who you are here for. So if you go over to the Q&A now and like the one that's relevant to you, and I'll have a look at your responses in a few moments. So we're very aware that this last year has been really challenging for so many of us, and we've never been through anything like this before. So we designed a series of webinars with the hope that we would help you to cope with the impact caused by the coronavirus, changing the theme each week, focusing on the different ways that your mental health may have been impacted by this pandemic. And in each webinar, we try and firstly look at understanding why you feel the way you feel, but also give you some strategies and techniques to help you to improve how you feel. So let's have a look at your responses and see who you're here for today. I'm just loading the Q&A now. I can see that most of you are here for yourself. So hopefully what you learn today will be really useful for you to apply to yourself and to the kind of challenges you're experiencing. So you can apply and start practicing some of these mindfulness techniques. Brilliant. Okay. So what would you like to get out of this webinar? So what are your hopes for today's webinar? We'd love to hear this from you. So if you could go over to the Q&A now and just type in your hopes for the webinar, and I'll come to those in a few moments. So we've designed this series of webinars to provide you with a toolkit, essentially, of evidence-based resources, ideas and tools. And all of the content is based on cognitive behavioural therapy, which is a very effective treatment for anxiety and depression. And the focus of CBT is making changes to our thoughts as well as our behaviour to improve the way that we feel. And in today's webinar, we're going to be looking at mindfulness, giving you a brief introduction to mindfulness and its benefits. And you will also go away with 3 mindfulness-based exercises to start you off on your mindfulness journey. So let's have a look at what you hope to get out of the webinar today. Practical strategies for practicing mindfulness. To stop myself overthinking and pulling myself back when I start thinking negatively. Brilliant. So we should have a few things that should help with that. To learn how to have a settled mind and not to worry about issues in an unhealthy way. Strategies of how to cope with anxieties at work. Help to cope with stresses and learn ways to react. Learning more about mindfulness and techniques to put it into action to manage anxiety and live more in the moment, particularly with my family. To understand which mindfulness techniques can help colleagues at the moment. How to take better care of myself mentally. To get refreshers on some easily remembered and taught techniques. Strategies to help my well-being due to the pandemic and how to balance work and family life. So a lot of these hopes will be kind of met by the strategies that we use. Mindfulness has been found to be very effective for anxiety and stress as well as depression, and so a lot of the strategies will hopefully be really useful, particularly with helping you be more present focused and more able to be focused in the moment rather than in your worries and in your stresses, I suppose. So okay, so we just want to acknowledge that this last year has been a huge challenge, and we can feel guilty about feeling the way that we feel, especially if we feel like we have a good life and we have lots of positive things going on, but we're still finding things difficult. And it is understandable that this pandemic is bringing up a roller coaster of emotions, as things do feel uncertain and unpredictable at times, and it does feel like we have very little control over things. And so it's important to recognise that it's okay not to feel okay. It's perfectly normal considering all the changes and disruptions to our lives. These changes have been necessary for our physical health, but unfortunately they do have an impact on our mental health. And so it's important to recognise that, and we're all struggling in one way or another with these changes and with these difficulties. And some of you may be really struggling right now and feel like you have nowhere to turn. And whilst we hope this webinar will be useful for you, we also wanted you to know where you can turn if you feel like you need immediate support. So if you're having thoughts of suicide or of harming yourself in any way, then it's really important that you talk to someone. Don't struggle alone. And the Samaritans are here to listen to you at any time of day or night about anything that's troubling you. And you can call them for free on 116 123. We will also provide more information at the end of this webinar about further support. And you can find this information and this number in the Q&A chat. So if you scroll to the very top, this number will be there. So if at any point during the webinar you feel like you need some help, then you can call them. So what is mindfulness? So as I mentioned today, I'm going to start with a bit of a brief introduction to mindfulness and its benefits, and then we're going to start introducing some of the strategies. So mindfulness means knowing directly what's going on inside and outside ourselves moment by moment. So it's being more aware of what's going on in the world around us. And it is quite easy to stop noticing what's going on around us and inside us. And it's easy to lose touch with the way that our bodies are feeling and to end up living in our heads, caught up in our thoughts, without stopping to notice how those thoughts are driving our emotions and our behaviour. So an important part of mindfulness is reconnecting with our bodies and the sensations that they experience. So this means waking up to the sights, sounds, smells and tastes of the present moment. And another important part of mindfulness is being more aware of our thoughts and feelings as they are happening moment by moment, and allowing ourselves to see the present moment a little bit more clearly. And when we do that, it can positively change the way that we see ourselves as well as our lives. There are a lot of benefits to mindfulness meditation. Numerous psychological studies have shown that regular meditators are happier and more content than average. And these are not just important results in themselves, but they have huge significance because positive emotions have been linked to longer and healthier lives. Anxiety, depression and irritability all decrease with regular sessions of meditation. Memory also improves, reaction times become faster, and mental and physical stamina also increase. As well as this, regular meditators tend to enjoy better and more fulfilling relationships. And studies worldwide have found that meditation reduces the key indicators of chronic stress, including hypertension. And they have also shown that meditation bolsters the immune system and helps to fight off colds, flu and other diseases. So there are so many benefits to mindfulness meditation. So let's give you a little bit of a taster to begin with. So firstly, what I'd like you to do is to sit up in a straight backed chair where possible, and bringing your back a little bit away from the rear of your chair so that your spine is self-supporting, and have your feet flat on the floor, about hip width apart so they're grounded, and close your eyes or lower your gaze if you prefer. And then focus your attention on your breath as it flows in and out of your body. Stay in touch with the different sensations of each in-breath and out-breath. And just observe the breath without looking for anything special to happen. After a while, you may notice that your mind will wander. And when you notice this, gently bring your attention back to your breath without giving yourself a hard time. Just the act of realizing that your mind has wandered and then bringing your attention back without criticizing yourself is central to the practice of mindfulness meditation. Your mind may eventually become calm, like a still pond, or it may not. Even if you get a sense of stillness, it may only be fleeting. If you feel angry or exasperated, just notice that this may be fleeting too. And whatever happens, just allow it to be as it is. After a minute or so, you can let your eyes open and take in the room again. So this is just a really quick, simple taster of kind of what mindfulness is. It's about connecting with your breath, connecting with your body, observing what's going on right here and right now, and not kind of allowing those thoughts to take hold and to distract you. It will happen, your mind will wander, as I said, but just when it does, acknowledging it and then refocusing back on your breathing. So this is a really good way, really quick way, just to come a bit more grounded, a bit more centered and a bit more connected with your body. So despite the many proven benefits that we've talked about, many people are still quite wary when they hear the word meditation. So I thought it'd be helpful just to dispel some of the myths. So firstly, meditation is not a religion. Mindfulness and meditation is simply a method of mental training. And many people who practice meditation are religious, but then again, many atheists and agnostics are keen meditators too. So it's not really about that. And you don't have to sit cross-legged on the floor. And you may have seen this in magazines or on the TV. And you can, if you want to, there's kind of no stipulation to this, but most people choose to sit in chairs. But you can practice meditation wherever you are. So whatever you're doing, whether it's on a bus, trains, while walking to work, you can meditate or be mindful anywhere. And it does not take a lot of time. So although it does require some patience and persistence, many people actually find that meditation liberates them from the pressures of time so that they have more time to spend on other things. It's also not complicated. It's not about success or failure. So even when it feels difficult, you have learned something valuable about the workings of your mind. And then finally, it will not deaden your mind or prevent you from striving towards important career or lifestyle goals. So I want to talk a little bit about autopilot. So I'm just wondering, have any of you walked or driven somewhere, and when you arrive, you have that sense of not really knowing how you got there? And you kind of realise that you weren't really paying any attention to that journey. Or maybe you've gone to a specific place to get something, and then you come back and realise that you didn't get the thing that you went there for in the first place. I've done this numerous times. So when this happens, you're simply on autopilot and your mind has been hijacked by all of your concerns. So it might be a problem that you feel quite familiar with. So another example, have you ever set off to a friend's house only to find yourself taking the route to work instead? And so with being more mindful, it's about being more aware of what's going on rather than being hijacked by all of the thoughts and things that are going on in our minds. And this picture demonstrates that quite well, in that we have the human walking the dog, and the dog is present, fully absorbed in the moment, whereas normally we are in our heads really thinking about everything that's happened already that day, or all the things that we still need to do and achieve, and we're not really present in the moment. So habits can be really powerful, and they can drive you in a direction which is completely different from the one you intended. A bit like when you were planning on driving to your friend's house, but your mind was hijacked by your concerns, and then you went on autopilot and you ended up at work rather than at your friend's house. And psychologists have completed studies to look into and demonstrate the extent to which we can miss obvious things when we're in that autopilot mode. So in one of these experiments, an actor stopped an ordinary person in the street and asked them for directions. And as the person was giving them directions, two people carrying a door rudely barged between them. And whilst their view was blocked, the actor was switched for another actor who looked and sounded completely different. Despite this very obvious change, only half of the people who were questioned actually noticed the switch at all. And this shows how easy it is for us to be completely absorbed in our busyness and the things that we can miss easily as a result. So this week, I'd like you to have a bit of an experiment with your autopilot. So see if you notice which chairs you normally sit on at home or at work. And then once you've noticed this, and maybe you've seen this pattern, maybe you're aware of it already, make a deliberate choice to sit in another chair, or perhaps alter the position of the chair you use, so move things around a bit. And then notice how your perspective changes just by changing the position of the chair. So it's something to just try out and see, and push your autopilot a little bit and challenge it somewhat. So I want you to now picture yourself looking out on the street, and it could be anywhere, this imaginary street. It might be somewhere where you grew up, or maybe you live there now. And I want you to imagine it's raining and it's cold and it's inhospitable. The buildings look old and tattered. The streets are clogged with traffic, and everything just looks miserable and bad-tempered. And then something miraculous happens, and the clouds part and the sun comes streaming through. The whole world is transformed in that instant. The windows of the buildings turn to gold, the streets look shiny and clean. Such beautiful and unexpected changes in perspective often have a dramatic effect, not only on what you see, but also on what you think and what you feel. So with mindfulness, we want to start to see the world as it is, not as we expect it to be, or how we want it to be, or what we fear it might become. But when we're being mindful, we are present and awake to what is going on right now in the world. Present mind focus is the art of being present in the moment without passing judgment and without being critical of what's going on. And this process of being mindful is very simple, but it's also quite challenging. It does need some practice. And the idea is that you keep your attention focused on the moment that you're experiencing right now, and you hold off any judgment about what you're feeling, thinking, and absorbing. We're just using our senses to just observe what's going on around you, what's going on in your mind and in your body, without doing anything else. Just allow yourself to be aware of what is happening. It can be tricky if we have a wandering mind. So our mind will wander, and it can be tricky to bring our minds back to the present moment. If we use our senses to help us refocus on the present moment, this is a really good strategy, because our senses actually use up part of our cognitive load. And this means that we have, we're using up more brain space, so we're less likely to be present and worry at the same time. So if you're really present, there's no room for those thoughts to distract you or take your thought process away. So use your senses to think about what you are doing right there and then. So for example, if you're cooking, rather than worrying and cooking at the same time, really think about what you're cooking. What can you see? What do your ingredients look like? How do they feel? What can you hear? What are the different smells? How do they each taste separately? So you're really using your senses to absorb yourself in the task you're engaged in. And whether that's cooking or anything else, it's about engaging with what you can see, what you can feel, what you can hear, what you can smell, and what you can taste. And this will help you stay focused and stop those thoughts and stop your mind from wandering. It is normal to have thoughts about other things come into our minds when we are trying to be present focused. And this is largely due to a lifetime of just allowing our thoughts to take over, and it can be very habitual, in that we used to habits of worrying and overthinking, and so we automatically slip back into that. So if you do notice this when you're trying to be present focused, then just be aware and acknowledge the presence of that thought, and then don't try to respond. Just observe your thoughts with interest. Don't judge them or react to them. Just describe to yourself the thoughts, feelings and sensations that you're experiencing right at that moment, and just allow the thoughts to be without responding or engaging with them or trying to change them in any way. You can think of your thoughts a bit like a beach ball. So if you try to push the beach ball under the water, it would be quite difficult to submerge, and it will feel quite unstable. And at the slightest slip, it's likely to bounce out of the water with greater force, splash you in the face, and then obviously you're going to try and do it again. However, if you let that beach ball float around, so you just let go, step back, move your hands away, and then bring your attention back to the present and focus on your senses, you're more likely to notice it less, and gradually it's likely to float further away as it's carried away by the waves. So it's the same with our thoughts. If we don't engage with them or try and change them or interact with them, we just let go, we observe, we let it float, and then gradually it's going to get carried away. So mindfulness has been found to boost resilience, and resilience is the ability to withstand life's knocks and setbacks. And you know, this last year has given many of us a lot of knocks and setbacks, and so it's definitely a useful strategy to help us to build our own resilience levels. And as I mentioned earlier, it's been found to help individuals feel happier, more energized and less stressed. And people also felt that they had more control over their lives after practicing mindfulness regularly. And they found that their lives had more meaning, and that challenges should be seen as opportunities rather than threats. So these results were found following an 8-week mindfulness course. So after just practicing mindfulness consistently for 8 weeks, these people found many benefits and felt more resilient and happier. So it's definitely a worthwhile thing to try and incorporate into our lives in some way. So I'm going to introduce another mindfulness strategy that you can use at any time. It's a seated body scan meditation, and it can be done anywhere, in any position, but for the purpose of this, you can remain seated, but make sure you're comfortable. So maybe grab an extra cushion or pillow for comfort, and just make sure wherever you are sitting that you are comfortable and that you're able to relax. Once you are comfortable, allow your eyes to close if that feels comfortable. If you'd rather, just lower your eyes, lower your gaze to the floor. And then let your arms hang alongside your body with your legs uncrossed and your heels flat, grounded on the floor. And as you sit there, notice the sense of the body as a whole, just sitting here. The contact between the body and whatever is supporting you. Experience it as it is in this moment. Noticing where your body makes contact with the floor or the chair. You may have sensations of touch or pressure on the soles of your feet, or your back leaning into the chair. Notice where your arms are resting. As you become aware of these sensations, Bring awareness to your breathing. Notice the physical sensations of breath. Notice the rhythm of your breath as it moves your belly. You may notice slight movements in your chest. Notice how the air enters through your nostrils and then through your windpipe and into your lungs. Allow that natural movement of your breath to continue without having to do anything at all. You may feel a tendency to try and control your breathing, but instead just notice how it is, whether it's short or fast, or long and deep. Just allowing it to move in its own rhythm. We are not trying to get anywhere or achieve any special state. The intention is to just spend time with each region of the body in turn, creating awareness of what is already here, allowing things to be just as we find them. Let go of the tendency to want things to be a certain way or to judge how you're doing. Simply following along with the instructions as best as you can. Whenever the mind wanders, as it will do, just bring it back without giving yourself a hard time. Now bringing your attention to the sensations of your breath down in the abdomen. Notice the stretching of the abdomen wall on the in-breath, falling away on the out-breath. Gathering your attention and moving it down the body to the feet. Notice what sensations are in both feet when your attention arrives here. The sensations in the toes, soles of the feet, heels, the top of the feet. What's here right now? If there are no sensations, then simply registering a blank, or if they're very subtle, then simply noticing this. This is your experience right now, and there's no right way to feel. Simply allow your attention to remain here. Taking a deeper breath. On the out breath, letting go of the feet, letting them dissolve in awareness. Shift your focus to your ankles. What sensations are here? Taking another deep breath. On the out breath, let go of the ankles and shift your attention to your lower legs. And just focus here for a few moments, noticing any sense of contact, fully alive to any and all sensations that there may be from the surface of the skin, as well as from inside your legs. Taking a deeper breath, on the out breath, release the attention from your lower legs and shift your attention to your knees and let your attention rest here. Sensing directly what's here right now, noticing what sensation changes, what stays the same, what's true for you right now. Taking a deeper breath. On the out breath, let go of the knees and shift your attention to your thighs. What do you notice here? Are there any sensations of contact or clothes on the surface of the skin. Any sensations of lightness or heaviness, pulsing, vibration, any and all sensations. Now, when you are ready, on an in-breath, imagine the breath could come into the body, flowing all the way in the legs, right down to the feet and back again. And on the out-breath, up and out of the body. So you're imagining or even sensing what it would feel like if the breath could fill the legs as you breathe in and empty from the legs as you breathe out. Just playing with this sensation for the next few breaths. Now take a deep breath, and as you breathe out, let go of the legs, allowing them to dissolve in your awareness as you shift your attention to your hips and pelvis. Right hip, left hip, the whole of the pelvis and organs in this region. And just imagine breath could flow into this region on the in-breath and out again on the out-breath. Then taking a deeper breath, on the out-breath, let go of the hips and pelvis and shift your spotlight of attention onto your back, starting with your lower back. On the in-breath, expanding your field of awareness to take in the middle of your back. Take in your upper back, including the shoulder blades, until you are taking in the whole of your back in awareness. Breathing with the back, take a deeper breath into the back as you let go of the breath. Move your attention to the front of your body, to the lower abdomen. Seeing what sensations are waiting for you here as your attention moves into this region. Just feeling and experiencing these sensations as you breathe in and out. From time to time, you may be finding yourselves getting distracted. Thoughts, daydreams, worries, or the feeling of wanting to hurry up or move on. Feelings of boredom or restlessness may come. When this happens, it's not a mistake, nothing has gone wrong. Simply just take the opportunity to notice these feelings and distractions and acknowledge them, and just perhaps notice how they impact the body. Then, without judging yourself, just bring your attention back to where you had intended it to be, where it is now in the lower abdomen, breathing. Taking another deep breath. On the out breath, leave the abdomen and shift your attention to the chest. What sensations are here as you cradle this part of your body in awareness? Take a deeper, more intentional breath into the chest. And then when you are ready, as you let go of the breath, let go of the chest as well and shift your attention to your hands and arms, holding both hands and arms in center stage of your awareness. Take a deep breath, and on the out breath, let go of the hands and arms and shift your attention to your shoulders and neck. What sensations are here? Just notice them wherever they are. Breathe with them. Then taking a deeper breath, and on the out breath, let go of the shoulders and neck and move your attention to your head and face, starting with your lower jaw, your chin, your mouth, lips, nostrils, the surface of the nose, the cheeks, sides of the face and ears, eyes, eyelids, eyebrows and the space between the eyebrows, the forehead, the sides of the forehead, the temples and the scalp. Imagine the breath can fill the whole head, and that you can feel the breath on the back of the face as it comes in, refreshing and renewing with each breath. Now imagine that your breath could fill your whole body as you rest here. Breathing into the whole body and out from the whole body. And continue to do that for just a few more moments. And now letting go of any intentions for the breath and simply resting here, allowing the body to be just as it is, and a sense of coming home to the body. Allow yourself to be just as you are, complete and whole, resting in awareness, moment by moment. And when you're ready, bring your attention back to the room. Maybe open your eyes, stretch, shake your arms and legs, and wake yourself up a little bit, and then bring your attention back to the webinar, and back to me. So hopefully that's helped you to get a bit of an insight into what you can do and how you can use mindfulness and meditation to bring your attention to your body, and this body scan can help you to connect to the present moment and to everything that's going on. And you can do kind of shorter versions of this, and as I said, you can do this anywhere and in any position. If you're lying down, you're more likely to fall asleep when you do this, and I'll just say that from experience. And some of you may have fallen asleep during this today. And as I said in the as I was talking you through it, whatever you experience, whatever your body does, is, don't criticize, don't judge yourself for that. It is maybe what your body needed right now, and so yeah, just use this as an opportunity to learn a bit about how your body responds and reacts when you do this kind of thing. So kind of moving on to thinking about how we can start to incorporate mindfulness a bit more into our day-to-day routines. So we've got three kind of tips of how you can start to be a bit more mindful. Firstly, you can start each day with a mindful breathing technique. So if you have an alarm clock, set your alarm about 5 to 10 minutes before you would normally get out of bed, and use that time to sit in a comfortable position and do a mindful breathing technique. And this can be a great strategy for a few different reasons. So firstly, you still get out of bed on time and you don't have to sacrifice anything else from your morning routine, and it's only 5 or 10 minutes. And then secondly, practicing mindfulness first thing in the morning is a really great way to start the day. You'll feel refreshed and clear-minded. And then finally, it gives you time to wake up gently rather than jumping out of bed and already feeling rushed. And so you may be wondering, well, what is a mindful breathing technique? Well, it's simply paying attention to your breathing without changing it. So there's nothing else to do really apart from be present and using your senses to really focus on your breathing and just be present in that moment. And then another thing you can do is to choose one daily task that you do mindfully. And there are probably many different tasks that you do every single day on autopilot. These tasks are wonderful opportunities to invite more mindfulness into your life. So, for example, you can drink your cup of morning coffee more mindfully. So put your phone down and instead pay attention to the flavour, the aroma, the temperature, the texture of your cup, and just really absorb yourself into that moment. Or perhaps shower more mindfully by observing the sensation of water falling onto your skin. Or perhaps go on a mindful walk, and as you are walking, pay attention to the sounds you can hear in the environment around you. And the point of this daily mindful activity is to create a habit of doing something simple each day, but in a more mindful way, where you're letting go of distractions, you're being present, and you're focusing on your senses so you can actually experience the activity. And then lastly, give yourself space to feel your emotions without judgment. This can be a great mindfulness activity to do towards the end of the day to help you to check in with yourself and your needs. So start by simply asking yourself, how am I feeling right now? And if you can, give yourself a few minutes to really observe your emotions and just allow that space for you to experience them. So, for example, you could sit down somewhere quiet and just turn your attention inwards. Notice how you're feeling physically. Reflect on the events that unfolded during the day. And then let go of the reason and focus on the emotion itself. So an example of how this might work, you start by observing, for example, I feel irritated. Well, why do you feel irritated? Well, because the house is a mess and my boss expects too much from me. And then rather than focusing on all of the reasons, you then focus your attention simply on that feeling of irritation. Notice how it feels to be irritated without getting annoyed with yourself for feeling that way. And just allow yourself to fully feel that emotion. And you might notice the intensity of it starting to fade as you focus on it. So these are just some tips that can help you to start incorporating mindfulness into your day and how you can do that. So whatever you take away from today's webinar, it's just about finding ways of being more focused in the present. So firstly, if you take only a few things away from today, remember that regular meditators are happier and more content than the average. And what this basically means is that you need to do it regularly. It's not about just doing it once. It's not going to make much difference if you do it just once. It needs to be a regular practice. 1 minute mindfulness can help you to bring your attention back to the present. Have a go at experimenting with your autopilot. Make deliberate choices to do something differently. Present mind focus can help you to focus on the present rather than being stuck in your heads, in your to-do lists and dwelling on all your worries. You can use that seated body scan for a full body mindfulness experience. Also remember that mindfulness has been found to boost resilience and hardiness. And creating a mindful routine can help you to start and end each day in a more mindful way. So what I'd like you to do now is to choose one of the ideas from today's webinar that you will action over the next week. So one of the most important parts of cognitive behavioural therapy is applying the techniques and strategies into your daily lives. So you do need to commit to something that you want to apply and put into practice. So for example, you could choose the 1 minute mindfulness, or maybe you want to have a go at experimenting with your autopilot, or maybe you want to be more present focused using your 5 senses, or perhaps you want to try that seated body scan meditation again, or start to incorporate a number of these things and create a mindful routine. So whichever one you're choosing, if you go over to the Q&A now and select from the poll the option A, B, C, D or E as your commitment to put this into practice over the next week. And also, while you're over in the Q&A chat, if you do have any questions about today's webinar or anything that we've covered today, please ask your questions and we will spend a few moments now going through them. We have a couple more webinars planned in the next week or so. Tomorrow we're going to be doing this same mindfulness webinar again live at 4 o'clock. So if any of your friends or family members would benefit from this, then please let them know and send them this link to register. If you would like to attend the Sleeping Better webinar, then you can register for that here. We have that booked in for next Tuesday. We've added this as an extra because unfortunately last Tuesday we had to postpone our Sleeping Better webinar as Microsoft Teams went down over the whole of Europe and Asia, and so we couldn't use it, so we were unable to do the webinar. So we've put it on again at the same time next Tuesday, so register for this here for next week. If you feel like you need more support and you would benefit from accessing free evidence-based therapy for low mood, anxiety or depression, there are IAPT services all over the UK, which are NHS nationally funded services. So you can find out where your local IAPT service is by clicking on this link and typing in your postcode, and you can self-refer and they'll be able to do an assessment and determine what treatment would benefit you. And also, if you feel that you need more urgent support for your mood, if you're having thoughts of suicide or of harming yourself in any way, then we do really encourage you to talk to someone about it. Firstly, contact your GP if you can, but if you cannot wait to see a doctor or feel unable to cope or keep yourself safe, then either the Samaritans or Shout, who offer a confidential 24/7 crisis text support service. So you can text Shout to 85258. Or if you're not sure what support is available, then you can use this link at the bottom to work out what would be useful for you. We also have some other useful resources and links here. So when you have some time to go through the slide deck, which will be on the Thrive London website, you can have a look through all of these links and see what other resources are available. Finally, we really do value your feedback and would love to hear how you found today's webinar. So we will copy and paste a link to a survey, and that will be copy and pasted into the Q&A. So if you click on that link, it will give you the opportunity to answer some questions and give us some feedback on how you found today's webinar. And that is the end of our webinar today. I really hope that you've found it relaxing and that you have some ideas of how to start to incorporate mindfulness a bit more into your lives, which will help with your anxieties and worries and your stress as well. So as I mentioned, we're going to spend a bit of time now answering any questions that you have. So if you do have any questions, add them to the Q&A now, and I will go through as many as we have time for before we finish. So whilst you're doing that, I'm just really going to have a look at which ones you're going to try out this week. So it seems to be quite an even split between creating a mindful routine and experimenting with your autopilot and trying the 1 minute mindfulness. So it seems like everyone wants to do something slightly differently. So I'm just coming to have a look at if you have any questions. Okay, so we've got one here. How do you carve out the time for mindfulness and stick to it? That's a good question. So the first thing to remember is that you can do mindfulness anywhere. You don't have to do it in a very specific place. You literally anywhere is okay. It's deciding where's best for you and how you can best incorporate it into your life and fit it in. So ideally when you are on your own, as in like without people wanting to talk or have your attention. So if your only alone time is when you're commuting to work, then that might be the best time to do it. Or you could do it while you're washing up or cooking, as I said. So it's just finding, you can double it up with an activity, or you can, as I said, set aside 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning or at the end of your day. So you just cut into your sleep by 5 to 10 minutes. It's just about tagging it in somewhere which seems to work for you. And obviously that's going to be different for everyone. And then in terms of sticking to it, it does take a while for new habits to form. So make a plan and then try and stick to it, and then be kind of patient and kind with yourself, as things will come up and there will be times when you forget. Maybe set an alarm on your phone as a reminder. That's something that I find really helpful. If I plan to do something new that's I'm trying to get into a new habit, setting an alarm on my phone is really helpful, as it's easy to forget. So that is hopefully something that will help. But my best advice is to double it up with another activity. So if you're going to walk the dog anyway, do that, but in a more mindful way. So hopefully that's answered that question. Okay, so I think that's everything. I don't think there's any more questions. I'm really pleased that some of you have found it helpful. So yeah, wish you all the best, and look forward to seeing you next week if you come to our sleep webinar.